And this is a old subject, but we brought it in new just because there is a lot of people wanting to do something different to their workforce. Then they ask questions, should I hire subcontractors or I should hire employees? And these are legit questions, but the answer is not so straightforward. In order to get the answer to be more straightforward, it is actually important to understand how to weigh in which way you want to go. So let's kind of tap into this 30 minutes to understand that. You know why it is so, I guess popular? I don't know, I lost the word. Like it's frequently asked questions, why it is so this way? Because after pandemic, and you know that a lot of people don't want to come back to work anymore. They want to work at home. But do you consider the people who work at home as subcontractor, or you want to consider them as an employee? And the answer is yes and no. There is no true answer to it unless your situation is being analyzed and we can come to a conclusion, and with a position, then you can drive that position forward. And even if you had a position, you say, well, I already checked with my lawyer and this is a subcontractor, but you could be audited by DOL, Department of Labor, by IRS, Internal Revenue Service, and by workforce, those unemployment insurance agency, they all can come in to audit you and make their own determination. So what we are talking about here is not about a sure win ticket, but it's about what you do to minimize your risk. So when you get audited by these government entities and you had your ducks in a row and you can answer their question in the way that will protect your position. The disclaimer for all these free webinars, and you feel free to check out our videos, but if you were going to rely on our videos to make any critical decisions, you want to make sure that you consult with the attorney, you consult with community CPA, CPA firms, and to get your answer in formal fashion. So you can use that for your position, right? All right, let's look at the guidelines in terms of subcontractor and employee. Subcontractor tend to get paid by project. Did you hear that? Tend to be paid by project and they take care of their own taxes and work whenever they want, however they want it. And they have the skill. An employee paid by regular wages, receiving employee benefit like medical insurance and maybe even pension plan, vacations, all of these things, have taxes withheld from their income. So they don't worry about filing taxes, discover 10,000, 20,000, 50,000 tax dues. It would not happen because it was already calculated when the payroll was running, right? And basically have their work scheduled and dictated by the boss, by the employer, by the business owner. So these are general difference between subcontractor and employee. But I know in your mind, you're also going to say, Ying, that's not the only difference, because as a subcontractor, I take home a lot more money than what I pay or what I get paid for employee. That is not wrong. But is that really the bottom line? Maybe not. So we will look into that further, okay? So the common rules, you got to understand these three. If you understand these three, those are the government guidance. It doesn't matter, it's DOL, it's IRS, it's workforce, the state government. You know, when they consider whether you are a subcontractor or your employee, they are looking at your behavior control. They want to know that whether your behavior is controlled by your employer or by your boss or not. So that's number one. And then number two is financial. And is your payout is controlled by your boss or by the work you do or by the project you take. So what if you take zero project so you don't get paid at all? That is a financial, that is a symptom for subcontractors. right? If you don't work, you don't make it. If you work, you make it, right? That's subcontractor. Type of relationship. Are there written contracts or employee type of benefit in place, right? So written contract, if you're an employee, you might have a non-compete going on because your employee, you are dealing with all the trade secret of the business owner. And so you sign a contract saying that if I leave you, go somewhere else to be an employee, or even on my own to do my own business, and I would not interfere with the business you are doing. I'm not taking your client with me. So I'm your employee, I sign non-compete. But with subcontractors, generally speaking, there is no non-compete. So those are the things the government will look into to define whether your relationship is truly a subcontractor relationship or employee relationship. All right, so in this next 20 minutes, we'll talk about the dollar difference and the owner administrative burden and the insurance requirement, government compliance, and the business sectors. Those are the areas, and I want you to know related to subcontractor and employee. So for example, what's the dollar difference as a subcontractor and employee? Here is the example. So from dollar standpoint, the cost to business is different, whether you are a subcontractor or you are an employee. Let me just say that, let's say you are a business owner and you hire an employee. You promise this employee that you are going to pay salary $2,000 a month. So what is your real cost as an employer and who hires a $2,000 a month salaried employee? That cost is $2,250. So I wrote it right there. You see that? And then what about subcontractor? If you hire this person, not an employee, but as a subcontractor, and that is $2,000 straight, no difference to you. You wrote a $2,000 check, then you have cost $2,000. Not like for employee, you write $2,000 check, but your real cost is $2,250. So this is what we call the haircut rule. And when you are in business, folks, and when you are in business and wanting to hire an employee, and you say, well, Ying, I always have about $5,000 left over in my bank account. I think I can hire a $5,000 per month employee. I think I'm good. I'm going to do that. Wrong. Wrong? Why? Because you're short of $750. And if you hire a $5,000 salary employee, number one, you need a $5,750 to cover your promise. Number two, you have to tell your employee that she's not going to get $5,000. She's going to get something like $4,700. Why? Because you have to withhold taxes for her. So it's like for the employee, and if she was a subcontractor somewhere else getting a $5,000 payment, she comes to you, goes, boss, I want $5,000 payment, payroll. Maybe she's talking about net pay. If she's talking about net pay, folks, you need to pay her $5,600 in order to have her receive a $5,000 check. The dollar is different, right? So I hope you got my point. The haircut rule is 25%. So you want to budget for the salary times 25% more. That would be your employer cost, and your employee would get the gross salary of $2,000. But really, come to his pocket is probably $1,000. In my example, the employee would get a $1,700 net check, not $2,000. So you might complain that, well, you short me $300. Then what I need you to tell her is, you know what? This $300 will come back to you as a tax refund or as your security payment when you are older. And I also paid extra $250 for you to add into your retirement account. So make that explanation clear to your potential employee. Now, our second point, from administrative side. So is employer hire employee is easier to manage, or subcontractor is easier to manage? And of course, subcontractor is easier to manage because all you need to do is to issue a 1099 at the end of the year. And then, you count by project. So you don't care how much time, when they did it, you just want to make sure the project is done. So you write a big check, right? And they're not on payroll, so no payroll taxes to worry about. And then you just need to make sure your subcontractor would file themselves as a business. I say that to you because there is a special experience that we have seen on the field. Sometimes when you hire a subcontractor, if they take your payment to Schedule C under their 1040, and that's actually a proof to you that they are a subcontractor to you. In case you get audited, the workforce comes around, goes, they're not subcontractor, they're employee, and pay taxes. The government say that to you. Then you can actually kindly ask your subcontractors to show them their tax return, to tell the government that, look, my subcontractor already reported that as a business income, so I should not be treating that as a payroll. And we have won that case before, so we know that works. Then that's why I put in here, you want to make sure that they file Schedule C or they file the business return. Of course, you may say that that's not your business and you don't know, but you at least should encourage them and tell them that it is important to do. Otherwise, it won't be good for you, it won't be good for them, right? So that's subcontractor. But for payroll, and you know what I'm talking about, you have to contract with a third party to run the payroll. I'll tell you that I don't care how many payroll you run, even for one person or for 100 people, and you want to hire a third party to run payroll. It is too tedious, too much changes. And especially if you run business a little more sophisticated, for example, if you have R&D kind of tax credit, and those can be claimed under the payroll 941. If you don't run payroll properly, you are going to have so much a mess. So I would say that you go ahead, do your payroll with a third party. Community CPA, we handle payrolls. There's other ADP and all kind of people doing payrolls, so you can work with the third party. The only thing is when you work with the payroll third party, and you want the third party to be flexible as flexible as possible. I'll tell you why. When they are flexible, they can go back to make certain changes for you as long as the tax payment hasn't even submitted yet. But if you work with a big chain payroll processing company, you dial 1-800 number, there's no way there's flexibility. So a lot of times that is why ADP couldn't take all the payroll world, because they don't have the flexibility. And when you want to make a change, that's harder than pulling wisdom teeth. It's not even regular teeth. It's those ones really painful. You have to take a couple of days off. So that is how hard it is. But with a local firm like Community CPA, we are in different locations, and you can see us, and we locally, we can handle those changes for you. But in other words, payroll, need a lot of expenses, and you need to manage that. So administrative side speaking, subcontractor is so much easier than payroll. And if you could get away from paying payroll, you would. I would if I could get away. And payroll tax example quickly. So employee works at the company, and if there's a $3,000 salary, that equals to $4,240 cash payout. So I broke that down for you. Social Security, Medicare match, that's your dollars, not employees' dollars. Medical insurance, long-term, short-term insurance, UI, 401k match, 401k profit sharing. So this is like a full bloom benefit for employees. Know that if you are a business owner, folks, you have so much room to put in benefit for your employees and for yourself. You know, especially if you have an S corporation, you heard me talking about S corporation. If you want to bring benefit to the owner, you need to bring that to everybody else, because that's what S stands for. S corporation stands for socialism. And yeah, it is socialism. If you want something, your employee gonna get it too. And you have to have a way to eliminating those disqualified employees. Maybe they're part-timers and what, but you need to have a rule put in place. But generally speaking, if you work hard and your other employees work as hard as you and should make a good money just like you, should have the benefit just like you. But with the subcontractor work in the company, you see how easy that is. You just run a check and you're done. All right. The third point is insurance. So as an employee, you know what kind of insurance you have to get, you know, as an employee, and you actually have the medical insurance that you can give to the employee. And you also have a general business liability that covers the employee's misconduct. And also you have a professional liability insurance covers all kinds of things, including employee misconduct or the wrong work you did. Like CPA firm, like Community CPA firm, we buy professional liability insurance just in case we made mistake and causing a huge amount of damage, then the insurance will cover, right? So insurance point, and when you are doing payroll, you deal with those insurance plus workers' comp insurance. So these are all the insurance trying to keep your workers safe and sound so they can walk away from your business without any liability. And, you know, in fact, one of our clients, one of their clerk made a mistake, cost the company $3.5 million damage. And that employee has no damage. And because she worked within the company guidelines, so she has, even though it was her mistake, but still employee is safe and sound. The company has insurance to cover that. So the company is safe and sound. That's where the insurance comes. But if that employee is not employee, is subcontractor, would that still happen? No. So what's going to happen is the company will sue this company, and this company will sue that subcontractor. That subcontractor, if it didn't have liability insurance on her own or his own, then he'll be losing his house, his car, and maybe his baby's toys. You know, so the liability goes triggering down. This is where employees are protected, but subcontractor, you should treat yourself like a business owner. So you got all the insurance, you know, piled up around you. Make sure that you are real protected. I mean, we talk about protection all the time. That's an endless topic, and you can protect yourself with different tax structures. You know, going to the lawyer, forming holding company after holding company, and you know, offshore company. All of these kind of games you can play, but the best game to play, it is still insurance. It is to buy the insurance and getting yourself beefed up around you, so you don't have any incidents where you would not have any coverage, right? So these are all the liability insurance that you would get when you are employee, you got all of it. But when you are subcontractor, you should get them all. The workers' comp, if you are a subcontractor on your own, you have a business just for yourself, you don't qualify for workers' comp. You can exempt yourself from the workers' comp, but if you hired another person, yes, you should have workers' comp. Sometimes I see our client, when they hire subcontractors, they ask for workers' comp insurance, general liability insurance copy. So that's a good practice, and you should look into that too. Now, with government compliance, that's another point, right? So the government compliance is what earlier I mentioned to you really quickly. So with the IRS, why is IRS here? IRS here, they want you to pay payroll taxes. So they say, wow, you classify your workers and your subcontractors incorrectly. So they want you to change that classification. Imagine if they change that classification, ladies and gentlemen, you are owing a lot more taxes. A lot more taxes to Social Security, Medicare, that match you did not do. Okay, so you don't want that. You know, we don't want IRS to come around, tell us we did a classification wrong. And if you have a case like that, I would say you hire the best out of the best to fight the justification, not letting that to happen because you just can't afford the consequences. DOL and the Department of Labor can come in and tell you that that classification is wrong. You owe taxes and you owe these people payment. They worked more hours, and these are wage and wage division people comes in. I'll tell you, for every $100 you owe to your employee, you know, they reclassified them, so they're now your employee. For every $100 you did not pay to them, DOL asks you to pay $200. So it's double, easily go for $1 million. I mean, I'm really hoping, I plead DOL to change that, to get rid of that liquidated damage charge. That's not fair, but it is a new law, came on board. So everybody, when you deal with DOL, and don't think it's okay for them to charge you a little. There is never a little. It's double whatever you think you're paying. So it is a very serious charge, and you want to make sure that you classify your people from beginning to the end is correct. All right. And the state workforce development, well, that's their job. They want to charge for unemployment insurance. You know, even though unemployment insurance is actually paid by the federal government and the state putting in some money, but they like to make sure that you have, you know, if someone who is a subcontractor to you, and you don't have any job anymore, they go to workforce, they fill up their form, goes, yeah, I was working for this with this company. Yeah, I was getting paid $600 a week, because $600 was the unit project you're paying for them, but they put that in as their wages, and then you'll be charged. The state government will come over and pay you and saying that, why are you not reporting this guy as your employee? And he applied for unemployment insurance. So at that time, you need to be able to present the subcontractor agreement, showing the behavior, he control himself, showing the financial, and he decide how much he makes, and showing behavior, financial. What was the last one? I suddenly forgot. I'm going back to the slide, because those are 3 behaviors that are very important for us to know type of relationship, contract, showing the contract. All right. So this is where, if you have those, you would be fine. And they cannot charge you just because they come to you. They charge you because you have no proof. But of course, I told you that we have been successful in contacting the subcontractors, have them present us their tax return, which shows that they already reported your income as their income on their tax return as a business income. That kind of help the business owner to not be penalized by the government, because the other party has reported that properly. Okay, so a subcontractor is like a business, and that's why, and you know, they have compliance risk as well. If you are a subcontractor, even if you just work for one person, one business, it pays you $100,000 a year, and you still have compliance risk. You need to make sure that you got the workers' comp insurance. If you have, you know, if you have employee, if you don't just yourself, you still should get that, but exempt yourself. General liability insurance, professional liability insurance, just to cover yourself. Otherwise, that $100,000 you make probably gonna pay back to the lawsuit, and they bring up to you because you did the work. The company who hired you to do the work hired you as a subcontractor, so they're not liable for damages. Just make sure that. All right. Consequences of misclassifying. You know, needless to say, it is very serious if you encounter this type of lawsuit or this type of government investigation. So you want to make sure that you have all of these contract preparation in place. When you hire an independent contractor, other than the three things we talked about, behavior, financial, and a contract, and what else you should get? You should get W-9. Have them fill up a form, and knowing that they're subcontractor, have them show you their insurance information so you can see that they insured themselves. With all of that, that would help you to make sure your classification stay properly, and nobody would change that. All right, so don't get sued. And you know, even if you get sued and if you win the lawsuit, that's a good feeling. But if you get sued by the subcontractor, they're claiming that you just ripped them off. They're actually your employee, and you were asking them to click in and out on the time clock. Ooh, those are employees. If you get into that kind of management, that's look like an employee, not a subcontractor. All right, so now the last factor we want to talk about is what kind of business are prone to this kind of audit. So the retail business side, you know, normally you should have employees, but if you have subcontractor, they want to know. But more and more retail business now have subcontractor because the merchandising, warehousing, all of these differences. And right now with online selling being the way it is, so there's a lot of subcontractor kind of work coming in. So you see more and more subcontractors on the retail space. And personal services like, you know, massage, nail shop, and those are industry standard. And for the nail shop, for many states, and they can be subcontractors. But if your nail shop is big enough, you should have an employee, because you must have someone managing the shop and, you know, making sure things are going. So you may have subcontractor and employee at the same time. And the professional services like CPA firms, law firms, and you know, because you are a CPA firm, so people who work inside of your firm, their job is the main job you supply to the public. So they are not going to be a subcontractor. This is one of the threshold is that if you are a drywalling company and you hire employees who does the drywalling, but if you start hiring all kind of subcontractor to do the drywall, you are in the same line of business. Some of the state takes a very strong position to say that that should be your employee. So you want your contractor to form a company. Don't stay on personal name, because that's just gonna bring that person into as an employee. If he get injured, you are going to be sued as an employer. So, you know, make sure that on these professional service side, if you are doing the same type of service, they should never be a subcontractor. But of course, for example, community CPA, but if we have a janitor who cleans the office, he's not doing the same line of business as we do. So that can be a subcontractor. Does that make sense? So just make sure that you understand the same line of business should not be, but if it is different, of course it can. So construction, I know that a lot of people are subcontractors in the construction world, and you want to make sure that your subcontractor is formed the business. They have a business, so you don't run into the situation where they look like an employee. Okay, that's a big, huge liability. All right, if you're not sure how to classify a worker, you can always file this form, SS8, okay, to request a formal determination by IRS. It takes time, but the IRS do get back to you. So make sure you remember this SS48 and to ask for special classification request. All right, of course, us, Community CPA is here, so we can help you as well. And this is our last slide. If you have any more questions for catherine@communitycpa.com, phone number, and contact us, and we're here to help, and we're really sincere. We're here to help. Bye-bye. I'll see you on Saturday again. Bye.